What's up guys, Cwesolo here, and today we are back with another video on how to add controller functionality to your main menu in Unreal Engine. So last time we made a few things here, made a few adjustments, made our buttons, and added some functionality to them. And this time around we are actually going to get into getting the controller support in there. So now that we're done with this first part, let's test to see if our main menu works. So hey, it works. Look at that. And this should point nowhere. It's going to throw up an error, and quit game should close it out, and options should say hello. So there you go. Your main menu now works. You have keyboard and you have mouse support. So you can go in between these and click on them, and I'm really liking that blue. I might have to use that for my game. Okay, so on to the next part. So the next part here is getting the functionality of controller support. So this is going to be the hard part. This would be the part that I would suggest is a little bit probably of more of an intermediate level of blueprinting. We're just using blueprints. We're not using C++. But if you are using C++, you can essentially do the same thing. So probably with a few differences and probably a bit easier, going to be honest. I prefer to write the code myself, but blueprinting is also nice, I guess. So we're going to do an event construct, and we're going to make an array, because we're going to need to do that. So we're going to go event const, not pre-construct. We don't want to pre-construct it. We want to. So essentially what this does is as soon as the widget is loaded, it fires off. So from here, we are going to want to grab each of our buttons, and we're going to want to place them in an array. So this is where our array is coming in, and this array is going to be used in multiple different spots. So we're going to get each of these, we're going to make array, and we're going to add 2 more pins to it. Just a note that computers don't start with 1. So keep that in mind when you are blueprinting or doing any kind of coding, that computers actually start with 0 and then go up. So it's 0, 1, 2. So yeah, we have 3 items here, but it starts with 0. So just keep that in mind. And that can get a bit confusing. I have made a few mistakes myself in coding with Java and other languages, that this can do that. So you just got to remember it starts with 0. After that, we're going to just promote this to a variable, and we're going to just call this a button array, because that's really what it is. We're going to just call it as is, and it's a button array. So we're going to just rename it and call it button array. Button array. Okay, so we have that. We're going to comment this out, and we're going to just makes button array. So that makes the button array that we're going to be using it in multiple different spots. From here, we are going to actually want to make a function. So we're going to make a function, and we're going to call this button selected. So this is actually going to be using our array. So we are going to get a few things. We're going to make a few variables here. We are going to make a integer variable. So this variable is going to be called button position. I don't really have a better name for this. It's essentially the position in the list of buttons that you have. So this is going to just be an integer, and that's it. So we're going to need that in the button array. So we're going to get that, and we're going to get the button array, and we are going to get array. So we're going to get an array. We're going to get it's probably going to automatically change to a copy, but that's fine. We're going to put that in there, and we are going to set background color. So you're going to want to have consistency here with your buttons, and there's a very simple way we can do this. Is we can simply go to our button, any of our buttons, and grab the hovered thing and just copy this hex linear code thing right here. It's essentially the color code to what color this is. And go to here and just plop it right here. And that'll automatically set the color to be what it is. Now, the next thing that we're going to do, so obviously you're not going to want it to change all the buttons, right? You want it to just change the button and turn it off when you're going down the list, because you want it to work something like it would with a mouse, where it's hovering them and changing the color only for one button. You don't want it to change. You don't want to go down the list and all the buttons change and not change back. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to want to make a for each loop. So we're going to be looping here through the array. We're going to grab our button array. We're going to plug it in right there. And then after that, we are going to grab the array index and we're going to put not equal. So as long as it's not equal to the button position here, then it'll do a branch as long as it's not equal, and then it will loop and change and set the background color of each and every other button that is not the one that we are on. So, and then you want to set this to white for the default. And then after that, you're done. I would suggest always commenting your work. So say what this does. Changes the color of the button selected. Simple as that. Just changes the color of the button selected. And that's what that does. Now we're done. Now the next one we're going to have to do is another function. And this is for when the buttons are not hovered, or when they're not selected. So buttons not selected. So you obviously don't want them to stay selected when you were using a mouse. You want to be able to switch between mouse and keyboard and be able to quickly, do that. So let's get into that. Sorry about that. I am checking my recording right now. So my apologies. Wanted to see how long it was. Okay. So, for the buttons not selected, we're going to be running another for each loop. So, this is going to just branch right into a for each. We're going to just link up our array. And this time, we don't have to worry about which button in the array is changing color, because we're changing the color of all of them back to default. So, that's all we have to do here. Set it to white, and you're done. There you go. Compile that, save it, and you're done with that one. Now the next one is going to also be a bit complicated, because we have to detect whether or not the mouse is moving to, one, call this function off to do this function, and two, we need to know whether the mouse is moving or not to have it show up on screen as well. If you were doing a pause menu, this would be really important. In this case, it's not as important as a pause menu. I can do that tutorial later. But this is relatively important because we do need to fire off this function if you decide to switch to a mouse. And since the cursor is already shown in the other thing, we don't have to. It's always going to be shown no matter what. You can change that if you'd like. But personally, I like the mouse to always be shown, so that's what we're going to go with. So from here, we're going to need to override a function, and we're going to do onMouseMove. We're going to detach this. We're going to move that out of the way, and we are first things first going to set off into a branch. Now, to see if the mouse is moving every frame, we're going to need to get the mouse. We're going to need to get the cursor delta. So we're going to get cursor delta. And we are going to do an equals, so it needs to be equal. And we're going to promote this to a variable. Actually, not that kind of variable. We're going to promote it to a local variable. We don't need it anywhere else but here. So we're going to promote it to a local variable. You can promote it to a normal variable, but it's really not needed anywhere. It's not needed anywhere else. It's just needed here. And we're going to call it last delta. So this will keep track of the last delta in the last frame, and set that right there. After that, if it's false, we're gonna set the last delta. So we're gonna set last delta, and we're gonna grab this, and we're gonna move that like that. This is pretty simple. We're gonna need a Boolean variable, Boolean here to check if the mouse has moved. So we are gonna put has mouse moved. We're gonna name it just like that. Has mouse moved. It's gonna be a Boolean, and we're gonna just set that right here. And if that is true, we're gonna check it to be false, return value, and then we're gonna put handled because it is handled. So there you go. After that, we're gonna check if it is equal again. So we're gonna check if it is equal to 0. So if the last delta hasn't changed, and then this will go into another branch here. If I can click the right part of the, that's one thing that is annoying about blueprinting. Put that right in there. If it is if it's true, set has mouse moved to false, return node, handled, and there you go. If it's false, we're gonna set has mouse moved to true, and we're gonna return, and it's gonna be handled. So basically what this is doing is it's checking the delta, which is a 2D vector of the current position of the mouse on the screen each frame, and if it is changing, then the mouse has moved. If it hasn't changed, then the mouse has not moved. And like I said, commented checks if the mouse has moved this frame. I spelled frame wrong. And it checks it every frame. So it checks the distance every frame, and that's how that works. So compile that and save it. Now we get to go back to the event graph. And this is the fun part. We are actually going to detach these, and we are going to make our own custom events here. Because each of these need to be fired off from their own custom event to make it look clean. So we're going to make a custom event, and I'm going to call this one play. I don't know why it's doing that. It's really weird, and I'm not a big fan of it. I just deleted that one. Plus open options. You want the names to be different. Okay. And custom event. And we're just call this play. Pretty simple. I'm actually going to rename that to a capital Q. Okay, so now that we've done that, we can start the big portion. So this is probably the most complicated part of the entire tutorial here. That isn't in line, that's annoying me. So we're going to make another custom event, and we're going to call it check input. So custom events are almost the same thing as functions. They do the same thing. You can put this in a function, but you can't use the delay thing, which we are going to be needing in this. So first things first, we're going to make a branch. We're going to check if the mouse has moved. So has mouse moved. check if the mouse is moved. If it is true, then we're just going to simply put the buttons not selected. Simple as that. If it's false, we're going to make a sequencer, and you're going to need 3 pins. If you were working on like an option screen or something like that, you'd need 4, 1 for the B button to go back. So 3 pins, and we're going to start with the top one here. So we're going to add a delay. We're going to delay here, and we are going to set it to point. We're going to set the time to 0.125. That's what I found to be the best, I guess. The bottom one here isn't going to need it because that's just checking for the A button or bottom face button to be selected, whether you're using a PlayStation controller or not. We're going to need a branch. Need a branch. We're going to need another branch coming down here. We need to get the player controller. And we're gonna is input key down, gamepad left thumbstick down. Now this is gonna work really weirdly because I'm gonna do down first. It's probably gonna make much sense to you, but that's how we're gonna do it because it makes the most sense later, I guess. I don't know. That's just how we're gonna do it. Go up, and face button bottom. Okay, now we've done each of those. This third one is just going to automatically come off into a branch. We don't need to worry about that. So this one can link up here, this one links up here, and this one links up here, just like so. And then after that, what we're going to do is we're going to link this up to another branch, and we're going to grab our button position, and we're going to do greater than an int. It's going to be, or less than. No. Yeah, greater than, and we're going to put, or less than 2 because it starts with 0. It goes 0, 1, 2. We're going to link that up. And then we're going to go greater than 0. We're going to add another branch down here, just like so. And then after that, we're going to do another branch. Actually, no, we're not doing another branch. We're going to set the button position. So set button position. And this is going to come off with a plus. So it's going to +1. And then this one's going to be a -1 because we're going to be going up and down the list of buttons. So we're going to set that again. And then after that, we are going to go button selected. And that'll just choose what button is selected. Button selected, And that's all you got to do right there. Then you're done there. Not that hard. If it was a pause menu, you could set the cursor to go to not be there if you wanted to only check for button input. Whatever, there's a lot of things you could do here. But simply put, that's what we're doing. And then we're going to do a switch on int. Switch on int. We're going to make 3 pins. We're going to check for the button position. And then we're going to fire off each of these ones. So we're going to fire off play, not play sound, but the custom event play. Open options. And quit. Now you could just set this up to just go quit game, and you could just remove that. We're going to do the same thing here. So each of these buttons, instead of calling the functions directly, we're going to just call it like so. So that way you have both mouse input and keyboard input. Or not, well, if you're using a keyboard, but controller input. Now, obviously, there are some limitations of this, but we're not going to get into that because there's, you know, limitations. I guess there's pros and cons to everything in life. So, yeah, checks the input. That's what that does. It checks the input. And then after that, we're going to go up here and we're going to go event tick. We're going to add another delay because you don't want this check in every, you know, tick. I say have it check every half a second is good enough. Or, well, that's not a half a second. That's like a fifth of a second. No, geez, wow. 5/100ths of a second. Just having a check 0.05 seconds is pretty quick, and it's not super crazy. So it's responsive enough. And then we're going to just have it call check input. And then now that's all set. So now that we have done that, we can save it and open this up. We have that, and if we grab our gamepad here, if it will work, and we click, our gamepad works as well. If we click options, it's going to say hello. It's going to work. See? So yeah. And we quit. It quits. So there you go. If you guys liked the tutorial, leave a like, comment if you have anything to say. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Again, just like the last video, I forgot to mention, go check out my website. It's www.theamazingball.com, where you can get all the latest news on my game, The Amazing Ball, and download the pre-release versions and give me feedback. It is going to be coming to Steam soon, so keep an eye out for that. And this would be also the best place for you to get the latest news on my game. So all the latest stuff will be posted on here, so you'll know exactly when it is going to be going on to Steam. Yeah, so I guess I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.